There is a certain feeling that doesn't arrive loudly. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with anger or drama. It arrives later, usually when the room is quiet. You replay a conversation in your head. You feel tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. You notice how often you walk away feeling smaller than when you arrived. Not broken, just reduced. Most people don't call this exploitation. They don't give it a name at all. They just assume it's normal. Maybe I'm just too sensitive. Maybe this is how people are. Maybe I expect too much. So the feeling gets folded away and the pattern continues. There is something subtle about the way this happens. No one is forcing anything. No one is clearly doing something wrong. Yet somehow your time keeps disappearing. Your energy keeps leaking. Your patience is always being tested, but never rewarded. The strange part is how familiar it all feels. Different people, different situations, same outcome. You listen more than you speak. You give more than you receive. You explain yourself long after no one is listening. And when it's over, you are left with a quiet question that never fully forms. Why does this keep happening to me? The answer most people land on is the harshest one. They turn inward. They assume weakness. They assume fault. But patterns don't repeat this cleanly by accident. There is a rhythm to how people take from others, and there is a rhythm to how some people unknowingly make it easy. This isn't about intelligence. Some of the most thoughtful minds experience this the most. It isn't about kindness either. Kindness alone doesn't create this dynamic. It happens when someone is emotionally readable, predictable in their care, reliable in their reactions. People learn quickly what gets a response from you, what pulls you in, what makes you stay longer than you planned. Not because they studied you, but because you made it visible without realizing it. You filled the silence when it got uncomfortable. You softened moments that didn't need softening. You stayed present even when your body was quietly asking for distance. And none of that makes you weak, it makes you human. But being human in a world that quietly extracts can become costly over time. There is a moment many people remember clearly, not dramatic, just sharp. A realization that arrives mid-thought. I don't think this is mutual. Not spoken out loud, just felt. That's usually where this journey begins, not with confrontation, not with anger, with awareness. Because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. You start noticing how quickly others adjust when you don't respond the same way, how certain dynamics rely entirely on your participation. You realize how often your presence has been doing the emotional work for everyone else. And slowly, something shifts, not externally yet, internally. You stop rushing to fix the mood. You stop offering clarity before it's asked for. You stop assuming responsibility for other people's comfort. At first, it feels unfamiliar, almost wrong, but underneath that discomfort is something steadier, relief. Because for the first time, you're not trying to earn peace, you're letting it exist without permission. This chapter isn't about changing anything yet, it's about noticing, about sitting with the truth that what you've been feeling has been real all along. And understanding this, quietly, without judgment. Awareness is not confrontation. It's simply the moment you stop abandoning yourself. From here, everything else begins to slow down. There is a moment when you begin to notice something subtle. It happens in conversation, in pauses, in the space between what you feel and what you show. You realize how quickly emotion moves to the surface, how easily it announces itself through tone, posture, timing. Not just joy or warmth, but tension, concern, the need to explain. Most people think emotion is something that simply happens to them, but over time, you start to see it differently. You notice how reactions shape the room. A raised eyebrow changes the direction of a discussion. A quick defense invites more pressure. A visible discomfort gives others something to push against. None of this is intentional, it's just human. But humans are observant creatures. People don't need to be malicious to respond to what they see. They simply follow the signals that are already there. When emotion is immediate and visible, it becomes information, and information in the wrong hands becomes leverage. This is where many people feel confused. They aren't loud, they aren't dramatic, they aren't confrontational, yet somehow their reactions still shape how others treat them. Because reaction doesn't need volume, it only needs predictability. When people know what moves you, what unsettles you, what pulls you back into the conversation, they don't need to ask for more. They just wait. This is not about becoming cold or distant or closed off. It's about learning the quiet difference between feeling something and offering it up immediately. There is a strange power in a pause, not a tense pause, not a performative one, just a moment where nothing is given away. You listen, you breathe, you let the moment settle without rushing to fill it, and something unexpected happens. The dynamic shifts. People slow down when they don't get instant feedback. They choose their words more carefully. They reveal more than they intended. Because silence doesn't push, it invites. For someone who is used to managing the emotional temperature of every interaction, this can feel unsettling at first. You might feel like you're being distant, or withholding, or even rude. But that feeling isn't guilt, it's unfamiliar balance. You're used to emotional immediacy, used to smoothing edges before they cut, used to making sure everyone else feels okay. When you don't do that, the room doesn't collapse, it recalibrates. You begin to see that not every moment needs your reaction to survive. Not every statement requires clarification. Not every emotional ripple needs your response. This isn't about control over others, it's about control over exposure. What you allow people to see, what you give time to develop internally before it leaves you. Calm doesn't mean empty, it means unhurried. There's a difference between being expressive and being transparent by default. When emotion moves more slowly, it gains weight. When reactions are measured, they are taken more seriously. People sense this even if they can't explain it. They stop assuming access. They stop leaning on your responsiveness. Not because you demanded anything, but because the rhythm changed. You didn't pull away, you simply stopped rushing forward. And in that space, something steadier emerges. You feel less drained after interactions, less tangled in other people's expectations, less responsible for managing outcomes you never chose. This isn't emotional suppression, it's emotional ownership. You still feel deeply, you just don't let every feeling speak first. Not everything that rises inside you needs to step outside immediately. As this chapter closes, there's nothing you need to do yet. Just notice the effect of slowing down internally. Notice how much energy returns when you stop reacting on cue. This isn't a defense, it's a foundation. And from here, the world starts to respond to you differently. Not because you changed who you are, but because you stopped giving everything away at once.
There's a kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from being available too often. Not physically, emotionally. You answer when others reach out. You stay present when conversations drift past their natural end. You remain reliable long after the moment has passed where anyone else would have stepped away. And because you don't make a show of it, no one questions it. They come to expect it. At first, this feels like trust, like closeness, like being needed in a quiet, meaningful way. But over time, something shifts. You begin to feel stretched. Not overwhelmed, just thin. Your attention is divided before you realize it. Your evenings feel shorter. Your mental space feels crowded even when you're alone. And still you hesitate to pull back. Not because you can't, but because you're used to being the steady one, the one who responds, the one who listens, the one who stays. What most people don't talk about is how availability quietly trains others. When you are always accessible, people stop checking whether they should reach for you. They just do. Not out of disrespect, out of rhythm. And when you begin to feel the cost, it's easy to assume something is wrong with you. Why can't I handle this like everyone else? But the truth is simpler and kinder. You've been consistent without being selective. There is a difference. Consistency is being dependable in your nature. Selectivity is choosing when and where that nature is expressed. For a long time, those two things were fused together. If you cared, you showed up. If you were capable, you helped. If you understood, you stayed longer. But nothing in life remains balanced without boundaries, even the good things. Invisible boundaries aren't rules you announce, they're shifts you embody. They appear when you pause before responding, when you don't immediately fill emotional space, when you let moments end naturally instead of extending them out of habit. At first, this can feel uncomfortable. You might notice the silence where you would have spoken, the gap where you would have offered reassurance, the moment where you don't step in. And nothing breaks. People adjust. Conversations find their own conclusions. Requests become more thoughtful. Because boundaries don't need explanation to work. They work because they change the flow. You begin to understand that being dependable doesn't require constant access, that presence doesn't have to be unlimited to be real. When you choose when to engage, your attention becomes more focused, more grounded, less fragmented. You're not withdrawing, you're redistributing energy back to where it can breathe. This doesn't make you colder, it makes you clearer. Availability without intention slowly turns into obligation. As these invisible lines take shape, something subtle happens inside you. You stop bracing for interruption. You stop anticipating demands. You begin to feel time return to you. And with that time comes space. Space to think. Space to rest. Space to feel without immediately responding. This is not a withdrawal from connection. It's a return to balance. You're still kind, still attentive, still present, just not everywhere, not all at once, not by default. As this chapter settles, there's no dramatic shift to make, only a gentle awareness. You don't owe the same access to everyone, and you don't need to disappear to protect yourself. Sometimes the most powerful boundary is simply choosing when to show up, and allowing yourself to leave without guilt when the moment has passed.
There is a quiet kind of control that doesn't come from directing anything at all. It comes from stepping back just enough to observe. Most people are used to responding quickly, filling silences, explaining intentions before they're questioned. Not because they're nervous, but because they're considerate. They sense discomfort in the room and instinctively soften it. They notice uncertainty and rush to resolve it. And in doing so, they often miss what would have happened if they hadn't. Silence, when left alone, has a way of working on people. Not the tense kind, not the awkward kind, but the neutral, unoccupied space where nothing is being pushed. When you stop reacting immediately, something interesting begins to happen. People keep talking. They clarify things you never asked about. They reveal priorities you didn't know they had. They show patterns without realizing it. Because when no one is steering the moment, people steer themselves. This can feel uncomfortable at first. You might feel like you're withholding, like you're being distant, like you're not doing your part. But what you're actually doing is allowing reality to unfold without interference. There is a difference between engaging and managing. Engaging is presence. Managing is control disguised as care. Many people who are easy to take advantage of aren't passive. They're active in the wrong direction. They smooth tension. They redirect discomfort. They absorb emotional weight that wasn't theirs to carry. When you stop doing that, the weight returns to where it belongs. Neutral responses are powerful because they don't give traction. A calm acknowledgement, a simple pause, a response that doesn't escalate or soften unnecessarily. These moments act like mirrors. People see themselves more clearly when nothing is being added. When you stop editing the moment, the truth stops hiding. You begin to notice who respects the pause and who becomes uneasy in it, who adjusts with maturity and who pushes harder for a reaction. None of this requires judgment, it's information.
and information, when gathered quietly, is stabilizing. This is especially important for those who are intuitive. If you tend to sense shifts in tone, emotion, or intention, you've likely learned to respond before things fully surface. It keeps interactions smooth, predictable, safe. But safety that requires constant adjustment comes at a cost. When you let moments breathe, you no longer have to guess. You don't need to analyze behavior in hindsight. Patterns reveal themselves in real time. Who speaks over silence? Who respects it? Who uses it to push? Who allows it to exist? This isn't about testing people. It's about no longer rescuing them from their own behavior. You don't need to provoke. You don't need to confront. You don't need to withdraw. You simply stay present without steering. And in that presence, clarity forms. Observation doesn't harden you, it steadies you. As this chapter comes to a close, you may notice a shift in how you listen. Less urgency, less interpretation, more space. You're not watching for danger. You're allowing reality to speak for itself. And when you trust that, you stop overworking your intuition. You stop filling in blanks that were never yours to complete. You allow people to be who they are, not who they present themselves as when guided. This doesn't make you distant, it makes you grounded. And in that grounding, exploitation loses its camouflage. Because when nothing is being managed, everything becomes easier to see. There comes a moment when effort begins to feel heavier than connection. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just quietly. You notice how often you stay longer than you want to, how often you explain when silence would have been enough, how often you feel relief only after something ends. That relief is important. It's information. For a long time, you may have ignored it, labeled it as impatience or selfishness or something to push past. But relief doesn't come from nowhere. It arrives when pressure lifts, when tension dissolves, when something misaligned finally loosens its grip. There is a belief many people carry without realizing it, that leaving requires justification, that distance must be defended, that withdrawal needs an explanation clear enough to be accepted. So they stay. They wait for a reason that feels solid enough, polite enough, undeniable enough. But that reason rarely arrives, because the truth is simpler and harder to say out loud. Sometimes staying just costs too much, not in obvious ways, in small, accumulating ones. A little less energy each time, a little more tension before interactions, a subtle shrinking of your internal space. You don't owe anyone access to that space. Walking away doesn't have to look like a statement or a decision announced with clarity and finality. Often, it's quieter than that. It looks like not responding right away, not following up, letting a conversation end where it naturally does, and noticing how peaceful it feels when you don't force it to continue. This is where many people struggle, because they confuse distance with punishment. They worry that stepping back makes them unkind. But walking away isn't about making a point. It's about making room. Room for your thoughts to settle. Room for your body to relax. Room for your attention to return to you. Peace doesn't require permission. There is strength in leaving without drama. No accusations, no explanations, no attempts to be understood. Just a quiet alignment with what feels sustainable. This kind of strength doesn't need witnesses. It doesn't need validation. It's felt internally first. You may notice that when you stop overextending, something changes in how you carry yourself. Your words become fewer. Your presence becomes steadier. Your reactions soften without effort. People sense this, not because you're imposing distance, but because you're no longer negotiating your own comfort. Self-respect doesn't need performance. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand recognition. It simply shapes what you allow and what you no longer make space for. And over time, this becomes natural.
You don't think about leaving. You don't think about staying. You just notice when something no longer fits, and you let it pass without resistance. There is a deep calm that comes with this. Not indifference, not detachment, but trust. Trust that you don't have to manage outcomes to be safe. Trust that you don't need to be understood by everyone to be at peace. Trust that your internal signals are enough. You don't lose yourself by leaving. You lose yourself by staying too long. As this final chapter settles, there is nothing left to prepare for. No new awareness to gather, no final adjustment to make. Just a gentle recognition of where you are now. Quieter, clearer, less available to what drains you, and more present for what doesn't. This is not the end of connection. It's the beginning of choosing it carefully. And in that choice, exploitation quietly loses its place, because there is nothing left to take from someone who knows when to leave and does so without needing a reason.